basically mentor or help anyone who gets this job, and I'll do it for free. I don't really care. Like, I have the time to help, maybe, you know, a couple of hours a week. I would even be able to get on like a call with the person that gets this job once a week and be like, hey, you know, this is what I think is working, this is what's not, you know, basically being collaborative with it. But at the end of the day, I think that whoever gets this role is going to be an absolute powerhouse. The Ethereum Foundation usually does hire good people from what I've seen. They do hire effective people from what I've seen. And obviously the Ethereum Foundation is very heavy R&D, so you probably don't see that directly most of the time, or you don't see the work of their employees most of the time. But someone managing their social media accounts, you're definitely going to see what their contributions are, and definitely going to see what their work is like, because it's going to be very public for you to see it there. So I'm super excited that they've put an official kind of role out there for someone to manage the social media. I think for the last couple of months, it's been a team of people from within the EF that have some social media experience, but have been doing it more on like a part-time basis. So I think there's a few people doing it part-time, which makes like a full-time role, but obviously having one person doing it as a social media manager as a full-time thing is a lot more effective. So I can't wait to see who gets this role, honestly. And as I said, if you are interested in something like this, you should definitely apply. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so there. And if you want any help with your application or anything, I'm also happy to help with that. So you can just tag me in the Daily Discord channel, and then we can kind of DM there. It's probably the easiest way to get in contact with me. But yeah, we'll see who gets this role. It shouldn't take too long. I think I'm going to assume they probably got a lot of applications for this. Well, you know what? I hope they did, because there's a lot of people who have opinions about how the Ethereum social media account should be run. So if those people actually want to affect change, this is their chance to do that. So I hope that they applied to this as well. But we'll see how that all shakes out there. Alright, so Vitalik tweeted about Argentina today, not about the, I guess, Libra scam coin that was launched a few days ago, that there was a lot of controversy around. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen that, but he tweeted about possibly hosting DevConnect in Argentina. So I quote tweeted this and I said, you know, this is the way to get countries/presidents involved in crypto. It's infinitely better than having them launch scammy tokens. Ethereum is for builders, and Ethereum really is for builders. Ethereum is the ecosystem where you come to do serious, long-term, sustainable things. Other ecosystems, probably not that, right? The opposite of that. And that's why they tend to attract the very, I guess, like speculative, gambly, short-term stuff, a lot of the scammers and things like that. Ethereum obviously has a lot of scammers on it as well, but I think the core culture of Ethereum has always been about building something that is long-term sustainable and shunning, essentially, those people that come into the ecosystem only to scam, only to grift. A lot of the Ethereum community does that. I think that's a key differentiator between the Ethereum community and other communities here. But what I really wanted to focus on was that, did Vitalik just leak that DevConnect is going to be in Argentina this year? As you guys know, DevConnect is the other conference that the EF runs. It is more of a casual DevCon. It's a smaller version of DevCon, essentially, that was birthed during COVID, because DevCon didn't happen during COVID. The next DevCon will happen next year. I don't know where it's going to be. People are saying that maybe somewhere in Africa, but I don't know. But in terms of DevConnect, a lot of people have been asking for DevConnect or even DevCon to be hosted in Argentina, because Argentina has a very heavy crypto presence there. There are a lot of people there, or from there, or know people there that are in crypto. So it would make a lot of sense, especially now that they're going through a resurgence in their economy. You know, the new president is doing a lot of drastic things to hopefully, we don't know if it's going to work long term yet, but things are looking pretty positive right now. But you know, hopefully bring businesses back to Argentina, people wanting to kind of build there, make a home for themselves there, and get rid of that you know, sticky inflation that they've had for a little while, that hyperinflation, even not the petty little inflation that we complain about, you know, a few percentage here and there. Argentina obviously has had hyperinflation, which is damaging to everything, right? And they've had a lot of corrupt politicians over the last few decades, at least from what I've been told. So it seems like things are looking up there, and what better place to host DevConnect than Argentina, honestly. So hopefully it happens. If it does, I will most likely make the trip out there myself. I've never been there, but I have plenty of friends that live there, close friends as well, so I'd be very keen to get there. It just takes a long time for me. I think I have to fly to the US first and then down to Argentina, which means 20 plus hours of travel time. And you know, the only time I would do that is either if I'm making like a long vacation out of it, like I did with Europe last year, or if I'm going to an Ethereum conference that is run by the EF, because as you guys know, a lot of the Ethereum conferences these days, unfortunately, are no longer Ethereum conferences. They are crypto conferences. You know, ETH Denver, for example, is not ETH Denver anymore. It's Crypto Denver. and you know, ETH seeds in Europe, very far away from me, but also from what I've heard, it's still pretty heavy Ethereum, but there are other things happening there. Whereas with DevCon and DevConnect, they are all Ethereum, especially DevCon. It's like 100% Ethereum, as everyone who went to DevCon Bangkok last year will know. And that's why I like going to those conferences, is because that's all I'm interested in. I'm really not interested in the rest of crypto, guys. Like, you guys know this. Call me an ETH maxi, call whatever you want. But like, honestly, I look at other ecosystems and I see basically the same thing that Ethereum is already doing, just in other ecosystems. So it's like, okay, well, Ethereum's either already done that, doing that, or basically planning to do that in the future. And Ethereum is already a giant ecosystem. It's impossible to keep up with everything. So I'm just not interested in the rest of crypto, especially because most of the rest of crypto is just pretty much a scam or a grift anyway. As we've seen over the years, especially if you've been in crypto for as long as I have, you do definitely get jaded to a lot of things here. But this is getting a little bit off topic. As I said, like, we might be getting DevConnect in Argentina this year. I think in terms of like when it's going to happen, October or November from I guess like previous DevConnects, that's when they kind of took place there. But I'll keep you guys updated on that. All right, moving on to some core dev updates. So Nixo had a recap thread here of the latest all core devs call, talking about Pectra and Fusaka mainly. Obviously, Pectra is going live very soon. There was a bug, I believe, on DevNet 6 around EIP 7549, which is the attester aggregation EIP, and there was talk about this and talk about progress on this. I don't think that's going to be a showstopper bug or delay anything from what I've seen. It still seems like the fork is going ahead in early April there. But then the more interesting discussion was around Fusaka in terms of what we're going to do with blobs, what the timing's going to be like, what are we going to do with PeerDAS, is EOF going in, so on and so forth. And then discussions around hardware requirements and bandwidth requirements as they relate to that there, as well as fork cadence. And I remember I spoke on the last episode about this and about how there's currently two parts we can take with regards to fork cadence. We can go down the path of faster forks, like, you know, every 6 months or something like that, where we do less EIPs but just faster. So essentially it's the same amount of EIPs delivered in the same amount of time, delivered in a faster period of time, rather than the, you know, once a year fork that we do now. Or we can separate out scaling in terms of like blobs into its own forks, while still having these kind of faster 6-month forks for general things. I honestly think that that's probably the better approach, because if we're talking about scaling L2s and scaling Ethereum in general, it's blobs, right? Blobs is really the thing that we're scaling here. So I discussed the other day this idea from Mark, who works on the Lighthouse client, around blob-only forks, which essentially would mean that we would do hard forks maybe once every 3 months, or even sooner than that, where it would only adjust blobs. So essentially we would increase the blob count, or we'd do something like deliver PeerDAS on its own, you know, outside of Fusaka, for example, and maybe we just do a consensus layer only fork instead of doing both, because typically forks touch both kind of ends of both sides of Ethereum the Ethereum network, the consensus layer and the execution layer. So what if we just split all of that up and we can deliver things faster? As I said, we're delivering the same amount of stuff, just in a faster timeline. And this again goes back to what I've been saying for the past few months around this reprioritization of Ethereum development. We're not necessarily, you know, adding more people to it, putting more money towards it. We're basically just shuffling the deck here, or shuffling the board, and basically saying, well, we can do all of the stuff that we're going to do anyway, but faster by splitting it up, instead of just having a mega fork, which is, I think, the better approach here. The mega forks were just basically a result of the fact that everyone wants their stuff in. Traditionally the process has been, well, you get it into like this big upgrade and then we do it. But now that we have like the CL and EL, now that we have things like blobs, it just makes sense to start splitting these things up in order to deliver them faster, especially when it comes to blobs, which is rather critical. And you know, I discussed this the other day as well, around what's critical versus what's, you know, high priority but not critical, medium priority, low priority, so on and so forth. And this is actually something that Giorgio's hit on here in his tweet, basically talking about how Paradigm is viewing the Ethereum's next hard fork after Pectra, which is obviously Fusaka, the TLDR, scale the L2s, of course, upgrade the EVM, decouple shipping from scoping and researching, focus on scale, and lock the scope ASAP. Now, you can go read these points for yourself. I'll link the picture in the post in the YouTube description below. But what I really wanted to hit on was one point that he made, which was basically the same point that I've been bringing up around the fact that we should be prioritizing these things, and we shouldn't be afraid to ship them once they're ready to go. We shouldn't just be doing mega forks here. And he said this here, where he said that we think Ethereum core development should aspire to do 1 to 2 hard forks a year in the current competitive landscape. For that, we should decouple shipping, scoping, and research. Ethereum research team should be able to service ideas to be added in Amsterdam, the hard fork after Fusaka, scope, and not rush inclusion of ideas in Fusaka. And the core dev team should be able to ship Pectra and simultaneously decide on the Fusaka scope, which is what's happening here as well. And he also said that the Paradigm team that's working on Reth are open to a consensus layer only hard fork if it means we'd ship Fusaka in Q3 of this year. Yeah, we'll have more of a conversation about this and what it means for the EL and so on and so forth there. So I just thought it was a really great kind of, I guess, thing to highlight here, is that like I'm not the only one thinking like this. The core devs are definitely thinking like this. They definitely have their priorities right, I think, in terms of what to do. You know, scaling the L2s, critically important. Upgrading the EVM, also very important, because that helps the L2s out. Making sure that we can move faster in terms of like scoping out the next hard fork, researching the next hard fork, not aiming to wait till we ship a hard fork in order to scope out the next one or to freeze the spec. As you guys know, the Fusaka spec may be frozen within the next 2 to 3 weeks, which means that once it's frozen, that's it. That's what Fusaka is going to be. It's rare for it to get unfrozen. Sometimes it does in case there is something that is like critical, but yeah, it's rare for that to happen there. So that is faster than we've ever moved before, which is obviously really great to see there. But yeah, as I said, you can go read Georgios's points for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But yeah, we're moving faster as an ecosystem. We're prioritizing the right things, I think, and I can't wait to see these things go live. Alright, so as you guys know, there is a new initiative that was announced by Justin Drake back at DevCon called the Beam Chain. Now, this obviously was